From the abyssal darkness of intergalactic space, there has come a most foul enemy whose sole goal is to devour and consume all biomass in their path. The aliens who I'm referring to are, of course, the horrifying TYRANIDs, who would leave the galaxy as a barren husk, following their ravenous feeding frenzy. The TYRANID species are corralled and influenced by a gestalt consciousness known as the hive mind, which will direct the endless tides of bioforms towards a planet. Once this entity has detected a bountiful source of life upon a world, there is truly little that can be brought against it to slow its inevitable advance. Let this guide be a warning to all Imperial citizens of what awaits a world should it be targeted by these Xenos horrors. In the preceding weeks before the invasion begins, those on the planet will begin to lose contact with the rest of the Imperium, with the Astronomicon appearing to be blanketed by an unknown force. Whilst it is not uncommon for the tides of the Immaterium to temporarily occlude a planet from astropathic contact, in this case, the reasoning is far more sinister. The sheer psychic weight of the hive mind is so immense that it casts a shadow in the warp far throughout space. And it is this blanketing force which will block any communications from the world. As this smothering psychic energy begins to suffocate the planet, it will cause a significant amount of distress and panic within the psychically sensitive population, and it will manifest as a terrible cacophony of alien scratchings and screamings within their mind. By the time this shadow has enveloped a world, it is surely too late for them. Their astropathic calls will be unable to penetrate the field, and none will have the foresight to gather their kin and to flee. As the fleet approaches, it will send a scattered blast of cartilaginous chunks, known as mycetic spores, down towards the planet. These will be mistaken as an unexpected meteoric shower, but make no mistake, they are the first stage of a series of terrible events to befall this world. The initial seeding spores will cause much of the local flora and fauna to rapidly mutate, where it will become far more hostile to the planet's inhabitants. In addition, the environmental changes help to create a perfect environment for the TYRANIDs to advance into when they finally land their forces. A thick, toxic fog will begin to billow out from the rotten remains of the spores, which will spread out across the world to turn even the planet's air against the poor souls who are now trapped there. These mycetic spores will also contain the first scouting organisms of the hive, such as lictors and gene stealers. These specialized bioforms have been deployed to seek out strategic information and to locate any specific weaknesses in the planet's defense, which can be utilized and exploited by the approaching hive. The creatures will seek out command centers and will begin to inflict horrific raids against those in power. Once these predators have fallen upon an unfortunate victim, then they will use their wriggling feeder tendrils to devour the poor creature's brain, allowing the bioform to absorb their knowledge and memories. This information will then be sent back to the hive mind, which will allow it to better strategize its approach and to formulate its bioforms to be better adapted to counter the defensive capabilities of the world. Wherever these scouting creatures strike, they will leave a pheromone trail, which will help to lead the lesser TYRANIDs towards wherever the enemy is weakest. In addition to attacking these vulnerable locations, the gene stealers will begin to form a cult amidst the most susceptible and neglected of individuals. They will be indoctrinated into following the whims and desires of the gene stealer, who will utilize his newly formed flock to sow disruption and panic amongst the civilian populace. Eventually, when the cult grows to a significant enough size that it may pose a legitimate threat towards overthrowing a planet's governance, then the Gene Stealer Patriarch will signal to the hive mind that the time for an invasion is nigh. The cult will rise upon the fabled day of salvation, emerging from every hidden stronghold and base to assault the unbelievers and to utterly cripple the defensive forces, who will soon be facing off against a far more terrifying adversary. With the planet now in the midst of a chaotic uprising, the full brunt of the Hive fleet will be brought to bear against the prey planet. A truly incomprehensible stream of spores will eclipse the very sun as they rain down an endless swarm of lesser bioforms to the planet's surface. The creatures will instantly spring out and they will begin the process of eviscerating any life forms they find. Huge flocks of gargoyles will descend from the chaos of the skies, where they will sow even more panic and discord amongst the already disrupted defenders. Some may try to flee, but at this point the fate of their poor souls is simply inevitable. The stream of gaunts and other lesser bioforms may move as a crashing wave, but they are not entirely directionless in their actions. These creatures are controlled and directed by the Xenos, who hold a synaptic link to the hive mind. The beasts act as nodes who can channel the will of the hive mind through to the more primitive creatures, who will quickly begin to move in unison, where they will attack the weakest locations in a terrifying display of coordination. The gigantic hive tyrants will act as the quasi-commanders to the TYRANIDs, and they will be able to influence and control the unending tide as it flows over the defenders with rabid fury. As the invasion progresses, the TYRANIDs will rapidly begin to adapt to the planet, becoming more and more suited to its environment and even more effective against its defenders. This can manifest as the bioforms starting to express larger claws to crush through heavy armor, or by evolving to produce more potent acids which can eat away at even the strongest of defensive structures. If the planet's defenders are proving to be a challenge for the hive mind, then the bioforms will even begin to express thicker and tougher chitinous plates, making the TYRANIDs far more resilient to enemy fire. By this point, even the planet itself will begin to show its most vile changes. The skies are scarred by the jutting peaks of colossal capillary towers as they shoot out from the planet's surface. These function to pump the reclaimed biomass of the planet back into the feeding ships of the main hive fleet, providing the prized bounty of nutrition back to the hive. The oceans will be tainted into an acidic mass, further degrading and dissolving biomass which will be fed back to the hive. Eventually, even the oceans themselves will be drained, leaving naught but empty, barren rock where life once thrived. The planet's surface will be pocked with digestion pools, which will rapidly digest any biomatter which has been dragged into them. The resources which are reclaimed and subsumed will help to further fuel the advance of the hive. And so the pools will swell to such a vast size that they can even be seen from space. Waves of maggot-like ripper swarms will cover the planet, further devouring any remaining organic substances which can be uncovered before they return to throw themselves into the digestion pools, feeding the hive with all they had found. Once the rippers have been sent out, there is truly nothing which can be done to recover this world, as any trace of life left on the planet will be found and devoured with ravenous fury. Soon enough, the entire world will be left as a barren rock with not a source of biomass being left undevoured. Any history of life, any innovations or memories, and any potential for further life to emerge will have been taken, broken down, and subsumed by an uncaring hive mind. If one were to visit a planet long after the fleet had departed, then they would find only a cold, empty rock floating through space, covered in the desiccated remains of capillary towers, with the world holding no chance of ever supporting life again.